Another exciting round of Photoshop with Mr. Wade. Today we're going to be learning about the clone stamp tool and the healing tools of Photoshop. Very important, powerful, useful tools that can help you correct mistakes in photos. We're going to begin with the clone stamp tool that you can find right over here. I'm clicking on that. And then I'm going to be adding an adjustment layer. Again, you can find that in the layers panel, this plus sign inside a box. Clicking on that, and boom, we have added a layer over our shark. Now, something that you're going to have to change, because it's not the default setting, is change sample down to current and below. And what this is going to do is it will allow us to make changes in the adjustment layer that reflect the background photo of the shark. So I'm going to zoom in now a little bit, Control or Command plus, and drag over this fish to see what we're up against. All right, so the brush is pretty big. I'm going to shrink this down by pressing the left bracket key. You can change the sizes of the brush with the bracket keys, which are kind of near the P if you have an English keyboard. All right, now we're going to be using the clone stamp tool. All right, so how this works is you hold the Alt or Option button, and this will allow you to identify a target of the photo that you can copy and paint over another part of the photo. So I held Alt and Option to grab this part of the water, and now I'm going to zoom in and paint over this fish. Okay, there we have it. Fish is gone. Second fish, booyah, gone. I'm going to zoom out a bit. We have another fish down here that I'm not liking the look of. I'm going to drag in some. Alt or Option, click, and drag. This fish is a bit more complicated because he is kind of behind the shark. So what we'll do is we'll press Alt Option again. I'm right about here. And then I'm going to kind of expand my brush a bit to see where the border ends. All right, great. And now I'm painting him out. Here he goes. Bye-bye. Maybe that's a tuna? I don't know what it is. All right, so there we have it, the clone stamp tool. Now, other healing tools that you should be aware of can be found here. Right-click this. The first thing that we're going to be looking at today is going to be the patch tool. The patch tool is kind of like a lasso tool with healing properties. Again, we'll be doing this on this adjustment layer here. But let's say that, for instance, there's some part of this that we don't like or we'd like to improve upon. Like, for instance, the shark seems to have some scarring here, and let's say that we want to make this shark look less ravaged. So what I'm doing with the patch tool is I'm highlighting a lasso around it, and then what I'm going to do, and by the way, you need to make sure that Content Aware is clicked with your patch tool. I've already done so. I kind of forgot that you didn't have this. Make sure Content Aware is selected. And then what you can do is you can just click and grab this, and you can select some other part of the shark to place over it and also blend in. So let's see. Maybe I'll just add this part. Boom. All right. So that is the patch tool. It's pretty cool. And when we decide that we want to keep this change, you can just press Command or Control D and it's deselected. All right. Next up, we're going to use the Healing Brush tool, which you can find here. And the Healing Brush tool is similar to the clone stamp tool. The main difference, though, is that it does have some healing technology built into it. We'll demonstrate this with the shark eye. I've reduced the size of my brush. I'm holding Alt, I'm clicking on the eye, and then I'm adding the eye to another part. Now, as you see, it's kind of doing the clone stamp thing again. The main difference, however, actually, one slight adjustment. I'm going to deselect Align. So this will keep it aligned to the shark. So what's happening here is we're adding a bunch of shark eyes now. And the difference between this and the clone stamp tool is that it's slightly blended in. And everything is a little bit different depending on the light and shading and the location of the eyes. Kind of a cool effect if you want to add some eyes under a shark. All right, so we've gone over the clone stamp, the patch tool, and the healing brush. Now we're going to go on to another tool that I would say is a very useful tool for your own photos, and that's the spot healing tool. And you can find that here. Now, the spot healing brush is just what you can imagine. It's a tool designed to remove spots. So, this is my good friend Brian Villalobos. He's a pretty handsome guy, but nobody's perfect. So I'm going to do some light surgery on Brian. I'm zooming in. And by the way, we might as well add an adjustment layer to this as well, just to further illustrate the changes that we'll be making. So I'm going to do some work on some of these moles, some light shaving. I'm zooming down. We also have some spots here on his neck that we'll just be taking out. So nothing personal, Brian. Zooming out further. Another thing that we can do with the spot healing tool is we can make corrections to the wall. As you notice, there's some water damage here. And holding Shift, we can make changes in vertical, horizontal, or diagonal lines. So there's some quick, easy changes. So the spot healing tool, very powerful, useful tool that I think is especially good for teenagers. All right, so let's move on now to another little activity. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to go about using the healing brush tool through the help of a clone source panel. In this particular video, we have 2 eyelashes, one of them fake, and we're going to try to put this eyelash on the other. The problem, of course, is that we're going to have to flip the eyelash completely. So how we're going to do that is we're going to go down here to add an adjustment layer. And then I'm going to go up here to the clone source panel. And I'm going to click on this. And with my healing brush tool selected, I'm going to click on this little icon here, which is flip horizontal. So this will enable us to take this eyelash and flip it to the other side, from left to right to left. All right, so there we've done that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to expand my brush a bit, just so we can see this a bit better. I'm holding the Alt button down, and I'm going to click here on the very corner of her eye. All right, so we have, oops, I'm not selecting that yet. Okay, so first I'll select her eye. I'm holding Alt, Option, and I'm clicking on it. And then I'm flipping it over here. And suddenly, boom, it almost fits this other eye. As you'll notice, however, if I expand it even further, it's easier to see if we change the opacity. Yeah. You'll notice that the eye doesn't quite fit the right angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the angle, I'm going to move the eyelash back over where it belongs. Then I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to press Shift plus or Shift minus. I'm sorry, Shift up or Shift down. And there we have it. That's a good fit for the eyelash, about -2. So I'm going to reduce. I'll leave it at -2. I'm going to reduce the size of the brush. Oops. And the reason why I'm reducing the size of the brush is because we don't want to draw it with a big brush because, well, we would be copying her entire eye. All right, so we got it about there. I'm clicking, and then we're drawing it in. Drawing it in. Okay, so that is how we use the clone source panel. All right, so the last thing that we're going to be doing today, on the topic of cosmetic improvements, I just wanted to show you briefly like one of the many ways to brighten things. In this case, we're going to be brightening the teeth of Mr. Steve Buscemi, one of my favorite actors. All right, so we're going to do this by way of the lasso tool. I'm going to drop the clone source panel, and I'm going to zoom in to Mr. Buscemi's teeth. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're just going to draw an outline around his teeth. It doesn't have to be perfect because we will be feathering these teeth. And feathering, remember, means to kind of blur the background around. And yeah, we just want all of the white. We want to be avoiding the red as much as possible. This means I'm going to have to go in and around. Okay, so pretty good, decent job. Teeth selected. I'm now going to make a slight change to this by refining this by feathering it a bit, as I said. I'll feather that out to about 5.6 or so. Okay, so that's kind of further blurring the background. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to copy this as a new layer, and we can do that through the hotkeys Command or Control J. All right, so that's copied the teeth of Mr. Buscemi, and we can see them there. Wow. All right, next up what we're going to do is we are going to click on the sponge tool, which we can find right here. And using white as selected, we're just going to paint over his teeth a bit. And you don't want the teeth to be absolutely white because that can seem unnatural. So another tip for improving the teeth is that you can go over here to opacity and kind of bring it in a bit so it's white but not too white. All right, so we're zooming out. I'm going to bring his teeth a little bit in a bit more. I think they're too white. Okay. That looks more human. And to better illustrate the effect of this, I will now deselect the improvement layer and show you how it was before. Okay, so an improvement. This can be done with teeth, and it can, of course, be done with eyes. Yeah, so there you have it. Some quick improvements on how to use content stamps and healing tools in Photoshop.